You have queued up the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation recorded at the New York City Concert Hall, Roulette. You can hear thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's past and present and find news of upcoming events celebrating innovation and imagination at roulette.org. Aren't you curious?
Welcome to another episode of the Roulette Tapes. I'm Susan James. I'll be your host. Today we feature vibraphonist Joel Ross, hailed by the press as one of the new vanguard of jazz performers. We'll sample some of his concerts recorded at Roulette as he discusses his music and the influence of musicians that he works with.
My name is Joel Ross. I am a 25-year-old vibraphonist, primarily pianist, drummer, musician in general, composer from Chicago, born and raised south side of Chicago. And I guess I've been playing jazz and improvised music for, I'd say, probably going on 15 years now. I mean, I guess that's generally how I would describe myself as a musician, a lover of music, a lover of the arts. I have a twin brother. His name is Joshua, and we both started out playing the drums when we were around two or 3 years old, and we grew up in the Baptist church. One of our godfathers was playing drums in the church, and so when we were little, we'd go run behind him and watch him play and start to emulate him. So my parents encouraged us pretty early on to play drums and to be into music in general. And my brother and I were the only musicians in our family, and my parents are retired police officers now, but at the time they were police officers. So I think they were just glad for us to have something else for us to do rather than, be running around on the streets of Chicago. And so for the most part, for most of our lives, we were pretty self-taught. We just used the experience we had, playing in church until in elementary school, we joined the school's concert band. And it was there that me being the younger twin, my brother strongly encouraged that I pick up the mallet instruments, and he stayed on the snare drum and the bass drum and the drum set and things. So that's where I started to learn like xylophone and marimba and more of the classical mallet percussion. But that same year we auditioned for Chicago's all city groups. They had a concert band which we got in for on the respective instruments. He was more snare drum, timpani. I was more mallet instruments. But we also auditioned for their jazz program. And while we both auditioned on drums, the instructors strongly encouraged that I also audition on the vibraphone. And, at the time I didn't know what a vibraphone was. I didn't really want to play the vibraphone. I wanted to play the drums because that was my first love. But at the insistence of my father and the percussion instructor of the band, they encouraged that I play the instrument, and I've come to, I've spent the rest of my life really on a journey to find my own voice on that instrument. The vibraphone, I've always said it was a love-hate relationship, but I don't want to evoke such a negative type of thinking on the instrument. I really do love it because the vibraphone is the instrument that I feel I can best express myself musically. And it's difficult. It's a lot of metal bars. It's a cold wooden frame. It's not as expressive as blowing air into a horn, a trumpet, or a flute or anything. And you can't touch it with your hands like a piano or such. And it's a different response than a drum set, which there is I want to say some type of flexibility between just when you hit a drum or when you hit a cymbal. With the vibraphone, all you have is this mallet and you're hitting a cold bar. So it's really about the way that you play the instrument. My earliest influence on the instrument was Milt Jackson. He was the first vibraphonist that my instructor introduced to me. And what I loved about Milt was that, like me, he grew up, he came into church and he was a singer. He played piano as well. And once he came across the vibraphone and the ability to use the motor on it, he did something unique that was different than another influence, Lionel Hampton. Lionel Hampton would use the motor at a quicker revolution, whereas Milt slowed down the motor to match the vibrato, the natural vibrato of his voice, which, in my opinion, made the instrument, a little bit more vocal and lyrical. And that was always where I was coming from the instrument. I would also say for influences, I never personally really just stayed into just vibraphone. I was always interested in more so just people with unique voices and unique band leaders, such as, early on it was Thelonious Monk, Miles Davis, John Coltrane. The way these gentlemen had such unique improvisational voices as well as unique bands. They led their own bands in unique ways that were personal to them, and that has always been what draws me to art and people in general. The way that the people who are most able to give their own, show their own voice, use their own voice, and make it extremely personal and unique to them. I'm fascinated by that. So early on, those were my influences coming up, in school and everything. And once I started playing out more, I did 2 years of college in California and then moved to New York, and just the experiences of meeting different people, meeting a lot of different unique people. I mean, a big mentor of mine is Ambrose Akinmusiri. He just, another way of thinking. Melissa Aldana, Peter Evans, Tyshawn Sori. I mean, meeting Jin Shu I could just pull names out of a hat. So many people who have really just influenced me, because what I love most is just how much you can take from people that will inform what you do and what I do. So, I'm meeting people every day. I'm also heavily influenced by my peers. I mean, people such as Maria Grand, Emmanuel Wilkins, Gabrielle Caro, Adam O'Farrell. These are my friends who have also had such a strong influence on me and have been such strong inspirations for me. So everything, everybody, all of that, it really informs what I'm trying to do as a composer and improvisationalist.
Joel brought 2 ensembles to Roulette for an evening of music in May of 2019.
So the first group that performed that evening was a quartet of the same idea, friends and inspirations. A tenor player that I've developed a deep friendship with and relationship with musically, Sergio Tabanico. I just met him once I moved to New York and started going to the new school. And in general, a lot of the music for both groups from that evening came about from Sergio and I meeting up in a practice room and just improvising together for hours, and just coming up with different things and getting to know each other in that sense. Actually, the music from the next group, the large ensemble, most of that music is from those sessions with Sergio and I. But a lot of the music we played with the quartet too. I guess both ensembles are a departure from, what I would say my main group is a quintet I have called Good Vibes, where this quartet, I play piano and vibraphone in the quartet, and the music it's a little more open, less information on the page, more improvisatory. On bass, there's Kanoa Mendenhall, who is another peer who I met early back in high school, who I've always loved her playing. And then Craig Weinrib on drums, who I met moving to New York, and he's older. So I would say he's also a mentor, but he's also been a very good friend. And those specific musicians just remain extremely open. And so it allows the music to do different things, and it's not always the same thing every time. And I would say for both ensembles, the ideology remains the same, especially for that concert. At least for both of those ensembles, it was the music I brought wasn't so necessarily notated. I brought, especially for the large ensemble, but the quartet as well, I brought skeletons of tunes, some information here or there with chords and some melodies, and the rest was up to the musicians to fill in. with the large ensemble, I've been working with this ensemble for a while now, for a couple of years, Parables. And again, it's a bunch of my friends, like the ones I mentioned: Emmanuel Wilkins, Maria Grand, Kalia Vandiver, Adam O'Farrell, Craig Weinrebo on drums, Rick Rosato on bass, and Micah Thomas on piano. And that music, majority of that music was from those sessions of Sergio and I just improvising, and then we would record it, and I would go back and we would try to write out the music. And I would say that Parables ensemble, I was thinking of it similar to, what I grew up with in church. There's like a praise team where there's a line of singers out kind of helping to lead worship. And so I went to the band, like the horns, like, yo, you guys are more like the praise team. It's not going to be like head solo. I want this to be a collective, focusing very much on a collective thing. We have these melodic ideas and harmonic ideas and vamps and things. And the idea was, we set up this space. Somebody might, I want to say, take the mic and lead us on this particular thing. The rhythm section, the role of the rhythm section was to support us, like a supporting choir behind this line of praise team. So I really encourage that front line to interpret the music, however they see fit. And that was the first time we really got a chance to perform that music, and I felt like it was fun. I would really love to record that sometime soon. Concert next January it's primarily some new music, but there'll be some older things, but the focus is really, I've been playing with this harpist Brandy Younger for a few years now, and Brandy and I have grown as friends and as musicians together, and I've been really exploring that sound. And there's another friend of mine, like my best friend, her name's Gabrielle Garo, flutist, and we've just been talking about developing something around this sound of the vibraphone, the flute, and the harp, because I feel it's a pretty unique sound. It's a beautiful sound, and so the goal is to explore that sound. The band is made up of all Black women. There's a rapper, Nappy Nina, from the Bay Area. She lives in Brooklyn. I'm gonna have her on it. Savannah Harris on drums, and Mimi Jones on bass. And I find that the idea is more or less the same in all the groups that I put together, to bring some music to them and let them really, really interpret it and express how they see fit. Because I find, you can bring the same music to everybody and they'll interpret it differently. The theme I'm working with is, I was reading from the scholar Tina Kemp about this ideology of Black visuality. And if I can summarize it as easily as I can, visuality is more or less the way that you see something in your mind, not literally the way you visually, but the way you see it, I guess figuratively, and so that's related to history and authority. So this idea of Black visuality is just, well, how do we respond to that idea of authority and visuality and how it's expressed? And so I'm just bringing this theme to them, and through some music that I've composed, but also just from different people, from Alice Coltrane. I mean, just influenced by these ideas, and I want to just bring it to them for them to express and interpret. Recently performed at the Berlin and Roulette 2020 Jazz Festival, and that was with what I would, I guess, quote unquote, call my main group, Good Vibes. And we just released an album entitled Who Are You? And we were playing majority of music from that, and that was our first time we actually had the chance to perform with Brandy. Brandy recorded a couple of tracks on the album, but we hadn't actually been able to perform with her live. So it was nice to be able to come together and perform that music, but also to introduce Brandy to the mix, which I hope will happen more and more as time goes on. I've quickly fallen in love with Roulette. I've had the pleasure of playing there, I guess, numerous times now. Once with trumpeter Peter Evans, a couple of times with Maria Grant on some different projects, and a couple of times with my own group. I mean, besides the space being beautiful, and I'm learning about the history of the space and just the support that it's had on creative music and creative arts for years. And I appreciate, a venue. But more than a venue, it's the team of people like yourself and everybody who is a part of it, supporting the arts and supporting our visions and supporting the dreams. Like, especially in a time like this where the arts are not so appreciated by the government and everything, and we're sort of on a lifeline. It's an encouraging thing to know that, like, Roulette is out here just supporting people. Just thank you for listening and being involved in the support. It's certainly not taken for granted and very much appreciated.
Joel Ross and Good Vibes, recorded live at Roulette in November 2020. The concert presented in partnership with Jazz Fest Berlin. The Roulette Tapes is a production of Roulette Intermedium. This project is made possible in part with support from the National Endowment for the Arts and the Grammy Museum. Our executive producer is David Weinstein. I'm Susan James. Thanks for listening.
You have been listening to the Roulette Tapes, a program of adventurous music and conversation. This series is produced by Roulette Intermedium. You can find thousands of concert recordings from Roulette's archives and news of upcoming events at roulette.org.